Star Wars is filled with iconic secondary characters. Just a cool look, a memorable line, or even no lines at all can be enough to become a fan favorite. And such is the case with Greedo, one of the worst bounty hunters in the galaxy, who beyond the never-ending Han shot first controversy, represents the true essence of the franchise. The Cantina scene is what really introduced fans to Star Wars back in 1977. Up to that point, almost every character had been human or humanoid, lacking in otherworldly quality. And then we step into this place, where the vastness of the Star Wars universe is displayed through a vibrant array of colorful and diverse alien species. And beyond its visual spectacle, the sequence also advances the plot. It's where we see a lightsaber in action for the first time, as well as the introduction of none other than Han Solo and Chewbacca.
I'm Captain of the Millennium Falcon. Chewie here.
Remarkably, this scene, along with the trench run, was envisioned by Lucas before he even developed a plot for A New Hope in 1973. Aware of its importance, Lucas got down to work, with one creature standing out from the rest. In January 1976, he hired makeup artist Stuart Freeborn to design the alien costumes for the film. The filming for the Cantina exteriors took place in Tunisia on April 2nd and 3rd, 1976, while the interiors were shot over 2 weeks on a set at Elstree Studios in London during that same month. Some parts didn't make it into the final movie, such as Han's girlfriend and Ponda Baba's severed head. Greedo's mask was originally designed by Freeborn for a Bird's Eye Peas commercial, being recycled with a new shell to evoke aliens of old science fiction classics. But problems arose when Freeborn was hospitalized with a serious illness, leaving Lucas with only some of the Cantina aliens finished.
What I did is I shot the scene, but I didn't have very many creatures in it. We couldn't really afford to build the creatures, and it was very hard, and with the demands of the movie, we ended up with really the creatures you see in the wide shot of the scene here. When they first walk in and you look in and you see the bar, that is every single creature we had, and it wasn't very many.
The confrontation between Han and Greedo evolved greatly during the creation of Star Wars, appearing for the first time in the revised fourth draft from March 1976, just when principal photography began. Greedo is not even named in the showdown. He is simply referred to as Alien, with a typo on the following page where he's called Alan.
Alan.
However, the script gives him a name in the later dialogue with Jabba. Greedo's role was offered to Paul Blake, a friend of the C-3PO actor Anthony Daniels. And just like the protocol droid, the mask didn't allow Blake much ability to convey emotions. For the famous scene, Blake would read his lines all in English.
What you said yesterday, but it's too late. I'm not going back to Jabba with another one of your stories.
And Ford started his habit of changing the wording of some of them. So if the script reads this, Ford changes it to,
"Here's where the fun begins."
and if you have this, he just gives you one of the most iconic lines in the history of cinema.
I love you.
I know.
In this sense, but I've got the money this time became,
Yeah, but this time I've got the money.
Then I'll take it now.
and the same for I bet you have.
Yes, I bet you have. Brilliant.
But Lucas ended up dissatisfied with the Cantina scene. So a year later, he scheduled pickups and reshoots for January 1977 in LA.
What was disappointing would be the Cantina sequence. It was really imaginatively described. And then you go in there, and it looks like the Nutcracker Suite. You know, there's a frog guy and a mouse girl and a giant cricket at the bar. It was really disappointing.
Greedo became Greedo after Lucas turned to Maria de Aragon, a US-based actress, to play the Rodian. Once the new close-up shots were done, the last thing to do was insert new dialogue to carry over additional information from the old scene with Jabba, which had been cut by Lucas for not being relevant enough for A New Hope. Harrison Ford also provided an additional line taken from that deleted scene, inserted in a way audiences can't see him say it.
Even I get bored sometimes. Do you think I had a choice?
But Lucas finally decided to include the Jabba scene in the special edition. That's why when you see the current version of Episode 4, it seems redundant.
Look, Jabba, even I get bored sometimes. Do you think I had a choice?
You think I had a choice?
As for Greedo's voice, Lucas was determined to have him speak in an alien language with subtitles, despite the warnings of the crew.
So I wanted it to have a realistic quality about it. So people who were from other planets and everything either spoke with an accent or they spoke another language completely. You know, to kind of make it so it wasn't like a typical science fiction film where no matter where you come in the galaxy, you speak perfect English.
So Lucas called upon Ben Burtt to come up with a voice for Greedo, which was added in post-production. He developed the alien language alongside linguist Larry Ward, who would later voice Greedo in Jabba the Hutt, speaking in a random and simplified Quechua, a native South American language.
Did you shoot Greedo first, or did Greedo shoot you first?
I don't care.
After George Lucas realized that digital technology had caught up to his original vision for Star Wars, he decided to remaster the trilogy to align it more with his original concept for the film's 20th anniversary. However, he didn't stop there, and more alterations were made in the following years. Most of them were okay, and went unnoticed or were deemed necessary. And while some were not well received, none has been more controversial than the Han and Greedo scene from A New Hope, in which Greedo became the one who shot first, contrary to the original version. Lucas didn't like the idea that the first thing Han Solo does in the film is to shoot someone, justifying the change as an attempt to make him seem less like a killer and more akin to a cowboy to viewers.
The situation was that Greedo's going to shoot Han outdraws him and kills him. But in the film, it sort of appeared that Han shot him without Greedo knowing what was going on. And that was always bothering me. So we added a new shot, a wider shot, where you can see Greedo fire his gun and have it ricochet off the wall, and then Han shoots him. So it doesn't look like Han shoots him in cold blood.
So no matter who you think shot first, as there's up to 5 versions for every taste.
With 1 million more well on the way.
In the original one, there's no question that Solo fired first and killed Greedo, who never shot at all.
Yes, I bet you have.
In 1997, Greedo now shoots first but misses while Han does an awkward CGI dodge and fires back, acting in self-defense.
Bet you have.
In 2004, Greedo still shoots first, but they do it almost at the same time.
I bet you have.
7 years later, the firing at each other was shortened again.
Yes, I bet you have.
In the last version, the reverse shot of Greedo being shot was removed and new effects were used, but the most significant change was the Greedo close-up saying McClunky.
Yes, I bet you have.
This particular alteration was made by Lucas before selling Lucasfilm to Disney, and refers to a phrase used by Sebulba to threaten Anakin, meaning the end of you. Since then, it has become pretty famous among the citizens of Tatooine, especially those loyal to Jabba. Lucas has always stated that the scene didn't show his original intention of Greedo shooting first, but in the shooting script it's very clear that Han is the one who does it. This change has also been addressed by A New Hope producer Gary Kurtz, who argued that it undermines the original intention of the scene.
I think that the problem is probably more fundamental than that a film is a product of its time and conditions.
Writer Lawrence Kasdan is another important figure contrary to this change, as shown in the film Solo.
I hope you're still paying attention, because now I'm going to tell you the most important.
The special editions also mark the beginning of the Rodians' cameos in the franchise, with 3 appearing in A New Hope, and all wearing the same clothes. But the new 1997 release of Episode 6 introduced the first Rodians to wear different ones. Among those was Beto, Greedo's cousin, who took his place after his death. Greedo has made appearances in other media, such as the Clone Wars animated series, where he was hired to kidnap George Lucas's daughters. A young Greedo also appears in Episode 1 wrestling with Anakin, but it was ultimately cut, as Lucas believed it wasn't essential for Anakin's character development.